Ali Berrolez was a sweet 5-year-old girl. In the afternoon on the 18th of May 1993, she went out to play with her 3-year-old brother in the courtyard of their apartment complex in Englewood, Colorado. At one point, their babysitter went inside for a few minutes. When she came back out, Ali was missing. Police believed that she was taken away, but had few clues to go on. 4 days later, a bloodhound named Yogi and his handler Jerry Nichols were brought in to trace her scent and help find her. Yogi took Ali's scent from the clothes that she had recently worn and started moving. He first went up the stairs and zeroed in on a specific apartment, which happened to be the one that she lived in. This meant that he was on the right track. Television news reporters followed close behind, but he wasn't perturbed at all. A scent trail, whether animal or human, comes from thousands of skin cells that are constantly being shed. If they are not disrupted by weather changes, they can remain for up to a month. Despite the many of them in the air, a bloodhound is able to focus in on one specific scent. While they walked, Jerry noticed that Yogi picked up the scent more sporadically. This meant to him that Ali had most likely been taken into a car and driven along that route. Interestingly, people leave scent trails from moving cars. The skin cells shoot through the car's ventilation and exhaust system. They are then deposited on the side of the road where the bloodhound's nose can pick them up. Jerry noted that in some training sessions, they've placed people in the trunk. Even then, the bloodhounds were still able to pick up the scent trail. Yogi led a search party south for several miles, almost covering 40 city blocks. At the entrance to a freeway, he headed straight up to the westbound ramp. The search party drove west to the next exit. He went past it and continued to pick up the scent down the freeway. The search party did this several times at each exit. To save time, the police decided to skip the 4th exit and move on to the 5th one. When they got to it, Yogi lost the scent. He apparently realised that he'd overshot the scent trail. They backtracked 1/2 mile to the 4th exit. He picked up the scent and led them off the freeway. He headed in the direction of the wooded area, Deer Creek Canyon. After 7 hours, Jerry realised that Yogi was overworking himself. He decided to stop the search. The following morning, human volunteers continued the search in Deer Creek Canyon. Sadly, an hour later, they discovered Ali's body. She had been stuffed into a khaki duffel bag and tossed off a 20-foot embankment. She was found less than 2 miles from the point where Yogi stopped. Without him, her body may never have been found. The case first aired on Unsolved Mysteries as part of the remarkable tracking abilities of bloodhounds on the 10th of November 1995. The case was solved when detectives took a new look at Ali's case and matched a DNA sample to Nick Stouffer, ending a decades-long saga for her family. As advancements in technology emerged, evidence gathered in this case was resubmitted for additional testing and comparison. On the 8th of February 2011, several items of evidence were submitted for new DNA testing. The agent developed a complete DNA profile from the area of Ali's underwear and from the waistband. On the 13th of September, it was announced that the DNA profile was matched to Stouffer. It took 18 years for the forensic science to catch up to the evidence they had on hand, which finally brought an end to the case. It was unequivocally his DNA in her underwear, which Stouffer had no business being there. Investigators found that there was a large amount of circumstantial evidence against Stouffer as well. At the time she vanished, he lived in Ali's apartment complex. He'd been there 3 weeks prior to her disappearance and abruptly moved to California just 5 days after it. He made the reservations for his flight on the morning of the 18th of May, the day she went missing. He also did not show up for the work the day after. He was the focus of the investigation within days when a 3-year-old brother told the police the old man took her and then took them to Stouffer's apartment. A second bloodhound also took police there. The 2 bloodhounds also found her scent on him and 2 cars that he was driving. Detectives travelled to Redlands, California to take blood and hair samples from Stouffer, though a full DNA profile of Stouffer was not found at that time. When questioned, he claimed to have been with 2 other tenants of the apartment complex when Ali was discovered to be missing. He claimed that he went to a nearby payphone and made some calls. However, the tenants claimed that when they left him, Ali was still in the courtyard. Furthermore, phone records proved that he had not made any calls that day. 2 days after she vanished, he borrowed a Buick, claiming that he needed to get his last paycheck from a railroad job, although in reality, he had been fired and paid for the job 2 months earlier. Detectives learned that during the investigation that as a teenager, Stauffer frequently partied in Deer Creek Canyon. A friend who helped him move into the apartment said that he had been in possession of a green military-style canvas bag similar to the one that Ali was found in. He denied ever having one. He was a welder, and police said they found metal shavings in the duffel bag. He had also once expressed a fantasy about taking off with a small girl. Carpet fibres found on a blouse matched the carpet in his apartment and did not match any other in the apartment complex. Over the years, the investigation into Ali's case continued. Stauffer remained a prime suspect, but police could not arrest him because there wasn't enough evidence. On the 7th of October 2001, he had passed away inside his Phoenix apartment due to an overdose and was discovered by police when they were called there on a welfare check after his family had not heard from him for some time. Since Stauffer had passed on, the case was considered closed.
When Sharon Stevens was an infant, her mother passed away. Whilst in her father's care, she was badly mistreated and eventually sought refuge in her foster home in 1959. She acted bitter and cold towards her new foster parents. One day, as she arrived home from school, she discovered a social worker waiting for her. She was thrown out of the foster home, but was taken in by a new caring foster parents. Their names were Bill and Cynthia Zelinsky of Gardena, California. At first, Sharon didn't like them and acted out, being mean to the Zelinskys, just like she did to her other foster parents. But then she realized that there was something very different about them. They actually cared, talked to her, and showed her love. Sharon was failing at school, so every day when she came home from school for lunch, Cynthia tutored her and lifted her to a grade A student. They encouraged her and helped her pursue her dream of learning ballet. Cynthia helped her do so, and Bill put in a dance bar. Another memorable and joyous moment for her was when they bought her a new dress for a birthday party. She was hesitant to go at first, but Cynthia went with her and she felt comfortable. Sharon had suffered from very low self-esteem, but the Zelinskys changed that. They made her feel confident and loved. Sharon finally felt happy living with the Zelinskys until a year later when she found out that her father had remarried and that she had to return to him. Back at his house, the only comfort she had was a doll that the Zelinskys had given her. A few weeks later, she returned home late from a friend's house to find her brother waiting. He told her that their father was going to sort her out and teach her a lesson. She rushed to a phone booth and rang the Zelinskys, who sent a cab to pick her up. Once again, she finally felt safe with them. Several hours later, someone came knocking at the door. It was her father, and he was furious and was there to take her back home. She knew that she would be mistreated, so she put several layers of clothes on. He got his waistband out and used it on her, the impact going through her layers of clothes as well as across the face. A few days later, however, the police were called after school officials noticed deep marks on Sharon's body and face. Her father was arrested and she was sent to a number of other foster homes. Sadly, though, she wasn't placed in the Zelinskys' home and never saw them again. Sharon became a teenage mother to 2 children. Unfortunately, the results of the sick action of a relative ended up taking the life of her second child. In 1974, her life turned around when she met her husband, Dean. They had a son together and lived near her married daughter. She felt that her life would have been far worse if it hadn't been for the Zelinskys, and wanted to find them and show her gratitude for everything that they did for her. But she didn't know how to find them since they changed addresses. This case first aired on Unsolved Mysteries on the 22nd of November 1989. The case was solved on the night of the broadcast when the Zelinskys saw themselves on it. They were overjoyed to learn that Sharon was looking for them and contacted the call center. On 25th November 1989, she traveled to their house in Laguna Niguel, California, and was overwhelmed with joy. During the emotional reunion, she showed them her appreciation and credited them for the person she had become.